Okay, so thank you much for joining us, everybody, today. Thank you so much for shifting to a different day. I had my COVID vaccine on Tuesday, right at this time, and so that was why we needed to switch. And as we all know or are learning, when you get those appointment times, you go and you take them. You don't say, or otherwise you be bumped way down on the list. So I have known our guest speaker today for several years. We've only met virtually, but I met her initially when she wanted to be a guest on the Business Power Hour, my podcast, and she contacted me and she said, I've written a book about in vitro fertilization from the perspective of children, how to explain the process to your child if you've gone through this. And I responded and I said, well, that's nice, but how would this pertain to business? and I'm so glad that I did, because Tess came back and said, well, what she wanted to talk about was, not only what she'd gone through, but how she is now marketing this and spreading the word. She's now been on the Business Power Hour twice. And because she's written 2 books, and this is going to be a series as the wonderful Ferris grows up. And so here's my visual aid. So here is the book on Ferris. It's I'm Very Ferris, which of course is also in IVF. So see, this was very cute. I thought that was wonderful. And Brian will really appreciate that, because Brian loves acronyms. But it's one of those things where I have been delighted to get to know her. And then last fall I saw this post that Tess had gone through something that most people, first of all, don't survive. And so she has joined me in the Almost Died But Didn't club, which is it's an okay club to belong to. And so it's been wonderful to hear her story. She is now a spokesperson for the American Heart Association. I posted on Facebook and on LinkedIn a little bit ago a news story that ran yesterday, featuring Tess that tells just a bit about her story. But with news stories, it can only tell briefly. But I really wanted Tess on today to talk to us about heart health, and especially about women's heart health, because it is different. And so with that, Tess, I'm just going to let you take over and have you tell your story, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Well, thank you, Deb. You are one of my biggest role models in life. So it's a pleasure to be here and a part of this conversation with some new faces. Again, my name is Tess Kossow. I'm talking to you today from Carmel, Indiana. I'm originally from Chicago. And yes, I am an infertility author. I used to work for CBS 2 News in Chicago. So I have had a little bit of media management in my background and decided to take that and start my own business after I went through infertility and had my son Ferris in 2018. And my most recent, newest part of my business is, yes, I am now an advocate with the American Heart Association and Go Red for Women as a woman of impact this year. Back in October of 2020. So yes, literally 4 months ago, I was out at a farm here in Indiana. And it was in an area that was kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Carmel is very populated. Where we went to the farm was, the farm. And being new to the area, I was trying new places with my husband and my son, and we wanted to get pumpkins for our house. So we went to the farm and went to get pumpkins. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I started feeling severe pain in my left arm. Now, I have a very, very high tolerance for pain. And this was deliberating. I couldn't stand up anymore. And then I started feeling extremely heavy pressure in my chest. And my brain automatically went to where it was supposed to. I remember learning in health classes and being a very, conscious adult of what heart attack is. But I thought, I'm 37 years old. What's going on? Did I pull a muscle weird? What happened? But it got so bad that my husband called 911. And after 45 minutes later, yes, 45 minutes, I went through this. The ambulance came and saw that there was some sort of damage done to the heart muscle after doing an EKG. And so the ambulance decided to take me to a hospital that was equipped with the right cardiology department, which was not the local hospital. So I was now being emergency sent off to a hospital that was 2 hours from my home in a new time zone. I'm in Eastern. This was now in Central. And got to the ER, and after nitroglycerin and stuff, I felt fine. I actually was kind of lying there thinking, what is going on? We were just going through pumpkins. This is a Saturday afternoon. Now I'm sitting in a hospital, nowhere near home. And the hospital decided to keep me overnight because they wanted to run some tests on me, and they couldn't run them that day. So they were going to do them on Sunday. So my husband went home. He was like, I'll get your laptop so you got something to do. Everybody thought it'd be fine. I'll see you tomorrow. I actually didn't even get to say goodbye to my son, Ferris, because my husband didn't want him to see me in an ambulance. My son is 2.5 years old. He turns 3 in April. So everything that was going on, I just had to mentally process. This would be the first time I'd be away from Ferris overnight. And hopefully everything is fine, because I'm completely clueless as to what's going on. And this is the part where it gets hazy, because I don't remember any of this next piece that I'm about to share with you. Apparently, after a few hours in the ER, the nurse decided to move me to a new floor where I'd be overnight. And as they were moving me onto the bed without being hooked up to anything, I went into sudden cardiac arrest. And they had to do CPR and the AED on me, and ribs were broken. I ended up going into a drug-induced coma, and they put me on a ventilator because my breathing wasn't at the beats per minute on my heart. And my husband got a call at about 11. He said something like 11-ish that night that this had happened, and now I'm in the ICU. And so our entire world's changed. Apparently, after 12 hours in the coma, I was able to wake up, but I was on very high doses of fentanyl and other drugs to help me stay alive, which I understand and respect. My husband tells me my hands were tied down because they didn't want, the opportunity for me to pull the ventilator out, but I was able to be awake. When they realized I wasn't going to pull the ventilator out, they released my hands apparently and gave me a clipboard. And my husband says that with the clipboard and pen, all I kept writing was, where am I? What's going on? And how's Ferris? Where's Ferris? I remember none of this. He says he answered that question probably about 100 times. But I have no memory of any of this ever happening to me. And to this day, if he didn't tell me this, I would never believe it. I feel like if I close my eyes, I can kind of almost have seen myself laying there on the ventilator. Some people have asked me, did you have any kind of out of body experiences since you technically died? And that's the closest I could tell you, is I feel like if I close my eyes, I see myself as I was lying there, but that's about it. I feel like I remember the ventilator being pulled out. They asked my husband to stay, to get out of the room. When my heart was up to where it was supposed to be and breathing was, they was able to take the ventilator out, and I was able to breathe on my own. And then I do remember waking up and seeing my husband there and feeling as if I cannot move, because I was in so much pain, and I've never been hit by a car, but I felt like I might know what that feels like now, because I couldn't even roll over. Everything was, why is it hurt so bad everywhere? And then I found out why. And my husband said, do you remember what happened? And I said, no. And he said, let me tell you, this is what happened. I ended up staying in the ICU over in Crown Point, Indiana for 4 days. Because of COVID, they couldn't get me to a new floor. So maybe COVID played to my advantage, and I was able to be in a place where everyone was very, very on attention for me and was there to help me. And I have the most respect for first responders, more than in my entire life, than I do right now, when I saw how just people were coming together to help me and save my life. And being the determined woman I am, when I found out what was happening and what was going to be my future, the opportunity. I wanted to get up. I wanted to move around. I wanted to start gaining my independence. I wanted to use the bathroom down the hall versus the commode in the room. So like any kind of challenge I could find, I was doing. And when they told me that there was no neurological or brain damage, I was again still learning, like, what are we even talking about this for? And now learning so much about heart disease. And the diagnosis for me is they have said it is cardiomyopathy, specifically Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. My dog had died 3 days before this attack happened. And what I'm learning with Takotsubo, or broken heart disease, or stress cardiomyopathy, is that it's that sudden shock and awareness that often women, healthy young women, how the body comprehends it, and just kind of the heart, like Takotsubo means an octopus trap in Japanese. So my heart, basically doesn't pump the right way it's supposed to. And so that is what they have decided to diagnose me with. The problem is that, and again, I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm learning that with Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, or cardiomyopathy in general, you don't normally go into cardiac arrest. So that's the part where teams of doctors here at IU Health and St. Francis Hospital in Crown Point, Indiana, and said Indianapolis here, they all got together and looked over my file and basically said, we've got this medical mystery, because my body reacted as if someone who does cocaine, don't do drugs. I ran the New York City Marathon. I am fit. I'm not overweight. I have actually kind of lower blood pressure. So all these things, I didn't have any blockages. There were no stints to do. I mean, you almost wish that they could have said this was something that they found, stop doing this and it won't happen again. But I have to live with that. We don't have an answer to that. You could still have something, glass of wine. You could still have coffee. You could still have a cheeseburger. So they decided that, I was sent home with a life vest on and couldn't drive and couldn't pick up my son, and was like extremely lethargic. I've never been one that's been on a lot of medications. And all of a sudden I was on 8 different medications, 3 different times a day. My husband had to create like a color-coded chart for me. And my body was very low blood pressure, and I was exhausted, and it was just all this unfamiliar territory, and so aware of every breath now, because a state of depression kind of started happening with, oh my God, am I going to die? And what's going to happen? And if Takotsubo means, with handling stress and whatnot, I'm 37 years old. Life's going to happen. I have a 2-year-old son and my husband. I mean, life is supposed to happen. Why is this going to happen to me? Is the next time something bad happens, am I going to die? And all these things started going through my head. And I talked to my general practitioner. I have now my electrophysiologist, who's also my cardiologist. And the best decision was, one, it turns out that taking care of myself, instead of saying, why me anymore, I now say, thank God it was me, because taking care of myself has allowed me to stay alive. So even though I was the last person I think would have this happen, perhaps that's why I'm still here and I'm not somewhere else. And I am now down to 2 medications because my body has repaired itself so well. The decision was to put an internal defibrillator, surgically implanted right here. And I see it every day. December 9th was my surgery date. And, it was back to again where I felt so lost. I couldn't get dressed. I couldn't lift my arm. I couldn't wash my hair. I was in a splint, because they don't want you to move. And I just remembered that this is temporary and I need to stay focused and do what they say. And I actually didn't have to do any cardio rehab. And still, like I said, down to 2 medications. My next appointment is St. Patrick's Day. And now I can lift my arms and I can wash my hair and I can pick my son up and I can drive and I can wear my seatbelt. I can have pressure here. I mean, all these little things that you don't think about. And then they become these small victories for me. that I'm just, so excited about. The first time I was able to run again, the first time I could do a push-up again, because I'm active and I like to work out. These were all really great moments for me of independence back and getting myself back together and the woman I am in this new area, and just trying to find a sense of normalcy. So I have decided to come forward with my story. Yes, I'm an infertility author, but life has a way of just kind of, when you think you've got it figured out, sometimes you have no idea really what's about to happen. And I look at this newfound path in my life of having death experience and the opportunity to make a difference and to speak up and be very real and not be ashamed or embarrassed or depressed. By sharing my story is a way that I feel that the reason I have my life back. It's a way to give back to other people and help perhaps save another life, especially for women's heart health. So I did team up with the American Heart Association and Go Red for Women. I've also been in contact with the Sudden Cardiac Arrest Foundation, but specifically they asked me at American Heart Association in the Indiana chapter, they have started a new program this year called Women of Impact, and they have selected 5 women. Oops, go back here. Sorry about that. And they have selected 5 women to speak and share their stories and raise awareness and fundraise. And it turned it into a competition. And yes, I am very competitive, so I want to win. And just by being themselves and telling how they're connected to heart disease. And that's what I'm doing. And that's how I'm taking my book business and the opportunity, again, to connect with other people and show that this is the #1 killer of women. I mean, I am now so engulfed in learning about heart disease. There's so much I didn't know because I was ignorant before. And now I feel like if I can find all the pre-tests out there and help them understand what they need to look out for and how to help change the mindset of other people who think, oh, not going to happen to me. I'm super healthy, or it doesn't run in our family. I don't need to worry about it. Just to not think like that and to go the extra step and get yourself checked. Then I've done my job for the day, and I'm not receiving kickbacks or sponsorship and whatnot from American Heart Association to do this. I have decided to do this and almost make it like my second job, because the thought of my son having lost his mother at 2 and my husband having just moved to a new home and now being a single father at 37, that's a reality for some people. And I am very grateful it wasn't my reality for my family. And so I'm going to take those experiences and that passion and that mindset and spread awareness and not be an alarmist, but again, just in a way, just to have people have it in the back of their heads, just something to look out for, because I don't have the answer as to why it happened to me. Truly, I mean, there are some people that have other ideas as to how this happened, and maybe it wasn't only driven by my dog's death, and who knows? I don't think I ever will. And I've accepted that and processed it. But there may have been signs that I should have known that I didn't pay attention to, probably because no one told me I should. And no one said it was my problem to deal with. And that is my fault for not learning more about this. So by teaming up with the American Heart Association and being a Woman of Impact on February 26th, on my website, which is tesskossow.com, as well as my social media, I'm going to be launching my campaign. And my goal with them is to raise $5,000 at least, and to provide activities and opportunities for people to perhaps partake in raffles or partake in special health awareness things, perhaps for a small fee, or take a test. I like to learn hands-only CPR, and doing that to, again, raise awareness and make this fun and make it competitive and show people that you really can make a difference. And here's a way that you can do it. And I'll be your personal connection to making sure that your contribution, your interest, your questions get answered our scene. And this opportunity to do this competition ends April 30th. And so it's very packed in 2 months of time, but I am networking and I am spreading my story and connecting with people. And I'm very much an introvert. So to do this is so out of my comfort zone. But since I've moved and had this happen, I got to tell you, I lived in Chicago for 37 years of my life. And then I moved to this town in Indiana, and this happens to me. And I have never felt globally, social media wise, locally in the neighborhood, so loved and cared for. I mean, people sending me meals to take care of my family when I was in the hospital and when I got back, so because I couldn't cook, flowers, cards, shout outs, checking in on me, just get well gifts, inviting me onto podcasts and conversations. I spent so many years at CBS in a media role, and then I go off and I try to do my own thing in my own little world. And now I've never felt so received by people in such a good way. And it just, I've heard so much that when this kind of thing happens to you, a lot of people can very much sink into a state of depression. And I've been very open that I had a short amount of time where that happened. And it was all very unfamiliar for me. But the opportunity to accept some help and let my guard down, and then turn now this all into an advocacy to help others, and have people really listening to me and going, hey, I want to be a part of this. I want to help. Or what can I do to bring your message to more people? It's a crazy way that my life is kind of coming full circle again. And someone told me the other day, like, sometimes you have to have your life taken away from you for you to take control of it back. And I think, with infertility and miscarriage in my life and moving, so much stuff was crazy and going around. And was I really paying attention to myself? And then losing our dog, who was like our fur baby. I mean, we love our animals in this house. The opportunity to kind of stop and reset and look within, and my gosh, I see it every day. Like, I feel it. I know it's there. And now I've got this whole new purpose for my business and what I do and how I look out for myself, and my healthy mannerisms have increased even more. So, it's been an interesting 4 months, but as scary as it was and confusing and unfamiliar, I'm the best I've ever felt in my entire life. And people claim they see that in me. And, it's an opera. Sometimes it's just these tragic things that I would have never, I still can't believe happened to me, are the best things that could happen to you. So that is my story. That is my advocacy with the American Heart Association and Go Red for Women. And this is not, even though the contest runs 2 months worth, I have heard through the grapevine that they have some big plans for me to continue forward with them. So I'm really excited about my partnership with them and seeing where this goes. And again, turning a tragedy into an opportunity to really bring awareness and help possibly save a life.
Well, Tess, this is just absolutely wonderful. And we're also very glad that you're here to be able to tell your story. And because it's incredible in so many ways. And I want to, let people ask questions. I do want to mention that Richard Block is actually Dr. Richard Block. He is a retired cardiologist. So, there might be a little extra information here if we need it. But, my first question was, you said you were 37. Was, and I think we tend to think of something like heart disease as being an older person's disease that they get. See, Dr. Block is already telling me no. And so that was my question: is 37 really more typical? And is that one of the problems? Is we think of it as being something old when we shouldn't?
May I?
Yes, go ahead and jump in, sir.
May I, Tess?
Yes.
Heart disease, for those of us who have that in family history can start very early on. It doesn't manifest itself. It may not manifest itself years later. I had my first heart attack when I was 46 and in great shape. I was always an athlete, and I had an MI, myocardial infarction, that did damage to the distal or lower portion of my heart. And I had the building up of the plaque, we'll simplify it, of the atherosclerotic plaque can start very early on. So at 37 is not surprising to me. It doesn't happen all that often to 37-year-olds. By the way, Tess, I am age dyslexic because I'm 73.
I'm 36.
So it's, I hope you got that joke.
Ching.
Anyway, I'm listening to you, and you're talking about a miscarriage, a move. There was a lot of emotional and stressful things that were happening to you. Broken heart syndrome is brought on by a lot of inner stress that you may have been feeling, and you weren't even aware of it. You were going through traumatic times, and then moving, and then losing your dog. And since I'm a dog person, I understand that.
I have a question though. Was the dog a mutt?
No, he was a toy Maltese named Mr. Big.
Okay, because otherwise it was all M's, because we had to move the miscarriage.
The mutt.
Mutt, yeah. Sorry.
See the acronym guy there. Mhm.
Exactly.
Wait a minute. There's a drum. Ba-bum, bum.
Thank you.
Bum.
Sorry, I had to jump in on that one.
Well, thank you, Brian. But so after I had my heart attacks, I did what you did. I had a second one in 19 months after the first one. And I'll tell you that story at another time, but I had 5 coronary artery bypass grafts, and I was 48 years old. So it was, age is relative. It's about heredity. It's about what you're going through. Broken heart syndrome is brought on by extreme stresses, and it lasts for a short period of time. You probably were on ARBs and ACE inhibitors at the time. I'm sure you may still be, even some diuretics. Is that right?
Yes.
So in a large sense, I'm glad we see you, because what you went through was really horrific. But I do understand. And I lectured on cardiovascular health and diabetes because I'm also a type 2 diabetic.
Yeah, but actually, I'm sorry, diabetes and high blood pressure stuff do run in my family too as well,
So it's a big concern.
It is a big concern. And I lectured about that to women's groups. And I still do it. Maybe there's something you and I can talk about, Tess.
Oh yeah, that'd be great to have you guys do joint type of things.
Would that be helpful to you, Tess?
Absolutely.
I'll connect you guys afterwards. So Tess, did you have any family history of any type of heart issues?
I do not.
Doesn't have to.
This is also something I have learned since I've had this and was, diagnosed with it, is that sometimes bad events happen to you. And Deb, I actually heard this from you a while ago, is that sometimes it will drive people away. When something bad happens to you, I mentioned about how much community support I've received, but I've also noticed some people step away from my life. And one of the biggest things is when I had this happen again 4 months ago, people said, my family, some of my family members, like, oh, well, you didn't get that from us. This is not from us. That's not from us. And it's almost like we'll release us from any kind of blame on. And that's just an interesting way I thought of how they were responding. It's like, well, I'm family. I didn't say it. I got it from you. And
it's not like it's contagious. I mean,
right. It's not. But to answer your question, no, not that I'm aware of. There is no sign of heart history or any kind of previous conditions that I have or in my family line that I am aware of.
And it's been interesting to watch as you've gone through all of this. I don't know how many people noticed in the promo picture that I used for this program. Yes, it was a gorgeous picture of Tess, but it was also showing the incision of where they put in her defibrillator. And I shared this with Tess earlier. I thought that was so interesting because it's almost the exact same size and place as the incision I have for my port. And so I just thought that was kind of, so we have sharing scars.
Twinsies.
But yeah, twinsies. But it's so, you start going through these, and what happens is it triggers lots of things. When I first got so sick and went into septic shock, most people don't survive that. I mean, there's luckily we're 5 minutes from the hospital.
Dilly
And
dilly.
yeah, and so there we've got another twinsy there that went into septic shock. And
Last year. Mhm.
yeah, it's and my heart did the opposite. I got tachycardic. And so my heart rate went up to over 100. And I mean, it was, now the funny thing was I couldn't feel that. I was like you, I couldn't feel anything. But when that little monitor's going, you're thinking, I don't think it's supposed to do that. And I had monitors on for a long time, weeks worth of monitors. And fortunately that cleared itself up, because it really was just related to the septic shock. But, I think, what the big thing is we as women, and as men, and and for the gentlemen on this call, we want to encourage them to be talking to the women in their lives. We need to check these things out. When we have our annual physicals, are we also saying, hey, can we run an EKG? Now, granted, a lot of these things don't show up until, unfortunately, you have a problem. But I think we need to be aware of those things. So, Tess, what are some other kind of early signals that maybe we should be watching for, either in ourselves or in others, that maybe, might be an indicator of something?
Well, again, I was ignorant. I mean, I was never looking for this my entire life. And
especially because you didn't have any family history.
No.
Yeah, and I think ignorant is a bad word. I think it's just unaware is probably
right. Because ignorant is like we're kind of pushing it away and we don't want to know.
It can be lost
Unaware is we had no reason.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean that.
No, I appreciate the correction there. It's unfortunate. I feel that I grew up in a bubble that, if it's not happening to us, then we're not going to have to worry about it. And if something ever did, we're not really going to talk about it. Mm-hmm. So, my point with ignorant was, it just was never on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It
right.
was never.
Mm-hmm.
Ever,
yeah. Stuff happens for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But
that's the education by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So the pain in my left arm was, I remember again from health classes and things like that pain was an extreme signal that something was wrong. It was not just, oh, there's an arm pain here or something wrong with my hand. It was arm was in so much pain. The chest pain, again, I've gone through IVF and whatnot. So I've had, shots and I felt pinches, and bruising, but I had such a heavy chest pain on that was nothing I had ever felt like before. Mm-hmm. And I think that then caused me some of the shortness of breath. Now I remember that, in my head was playing, can you smile? Can you say a sentence? And I could do that, but my ability to think straight because of all this pain going on and it wasn't subsiding was really where we started realizing that something was wrong. And I'll share with you all something that just shows you again my comments about growing up and not having to worry about this and not being aware of it. My parents were actually with my husband and my son and I when we were at the farm. They have been coming to meet with me every month so they could see my son since we've moved. And my dad's first reaction was, oh, I get that all the time. You're just having some kind of like a heartburn or an indigestion. Here, take one of these pills I have. And it was like, are you kidding? And I remember the ambulance and the paramedics were like, why did you take a pill? Like, why did you take this from your dad? And I was so out of it. I was like, I have no idea. But that was, again, the mindset.
Dad told me to.
Exactly. The mindset
Mhm.
of what my family, like, there's no way that anything bad could be happening to her. Just give her one of these, just give her one of these pills like Carrie and make her feel better. Because I sometimes get that too. It's like, no. This is much different.
Those light, some of those light changing experience or so,
Mhm.
Yeah.
May I just ask this question of you? Were you feeling diaphoretic, clammy, sweaty?
No.
That usually doesn't happen.
Mhm.
My first heart attack happens more to women than happened to men. I had what's called, Tess, an inferior arfa, and what I can't speak today. I don't know why, but it was in my back, and so and again, women have much more pain tolerance than men do, and so I'm not surprised at your story because you kind of throw it away and say, yeah, oh well, it's just I'm tired. Or whatever,
or you picked up ferrous wrong and pulled a muscle. I mean, all sorts of things like that.
Okay, could have happened. So it's, but my first heart attack was intense. On a scale of 1 to 10, it was close to 15, and it was different. You just said it was different.
Yeah.
And so if you have pain that is different, then it's time to sit up and take notice, especially for women in the jaw, in the back. Things they're not thinking about, in your neck. Again, they may be minor things, but if it's an intense pain, if you can describe the pain as being up towards 10 or more, then I'm suggesting that every woman who would experience that would go to the emergency room. And if it's a no lose situation, if you're not sure, you go. And just to share one last thing with you, because I want, you're the star speaker. I don't want to dominate this conversation. But it's I went first year after my first heart attack, the first at least 6 months, I was in the emergency room 3 times. And they used to say, Dr. Block, what the hell are you doing here? And I said, because I'm concerned about the pain. I'm not sure about the pain. I'm not sure what my body is doing. And then when I learned about what my body did and what I could do, and of course, I knew that if I could press here and it reproduced the pain, it was probably musculoskeletal. So there's a lot of things that I know you talk about, but again, women have more pain tolerance than men. Important to be aware of those pains and aches that you're having that linger or are pressing like you went through, especially with your left arm. So I hope that's helpful. I don't want to step on what you're doing for sure, but I just want to bring those things out.
And I think it's scary now because of COVID. We don't want to go to the emergency room. There's lots of cooties there. And
God,
so, I think what we want to do is really encourage everyone. If you're feeling it, or if you're seeing someone go through it, go to the hospital. They're going to take precautions, all sorts of things, and don't think, oh, it'll go away. Judy, you've been wanting to ask a question. You're on mute, dear. Unmute. The saying of the year.
I'm unmuted. Tess, thank you. I just got a reminder in my message that I have an appointment with the cardiologist next week, and I clicked it right away as you were speaking. And it is to review what whatever you put on your heart gauge for 10 days, and then they examine it. They've told me some things I don't understand, but you have inspired me to understand them more. I have no idea what a pre-ventricular heartbeat is. I'm sure Richard Block knows, and I never, ever noticed it. Never, rarely. But I think after hearing you, get it checked out. Don't wait as a woman.
And make them explain it.
Yeah.
Absolutely the case. Have them explain it. I'm being
in terms
treated
you understand.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well,
Don't have them do the 500
terms.
letter word. They need to explain it.
Yeah.
I'm being treated now and have been for the last a year and a half for heart failure. So, I'm still a cardiac patient without a doubt. And Deb knows this. Deb does know this, but that's what I've dealt with. It's not that it goes away all of a sudden.
No, I have made sure to, I have, now have portals obviously to your medical, and I was at 2 different hospitals and 2 different health systems. I have access to that. So I literally would print everything out and bring it and ask questions as I was getting, referred and navigated. Because again, I was treated in an area which I probably wasn't going to return to because it was over 2 hours from home. I kept all of the medical, all my medicines, and I have my charts, and I continue to ask questions. And I said to my electrophysiologist when I left after my follow-up appointment back, it would have been like the week before Christmas. And I said, I want to thank you. You've given me, I'm pretty sure, the best Christmas gift I've ever gotten. And he said, I'm really happy that you see it that way. And I said, I'm actually going to be partnering with the American Heart Association and Go Red for Women. And I'm going to go forward with this story. And I'm going to tell people and try to spread awareness and share my story and continue to learn, because I'm learning. I'm very fresh into this. And I don't want to just kind of sit back. I want to talk about it. And, he thanked me for being so open. He said, we need more people like you to do that.
Sure.
So I feel that asking these questions and people paying attention and making a point to do the extra step and make a doctor's appointment. My husband always says, I never regret calling 911 for many reasons. Now, after the fact, he says, I can't go backwards. I shouldn't have waited so long. 45 minutes went by, but everybody was sitting there like, Tess is normally fine. Give her a couple minutes, and it wasn't happening. And so he's like, if I had called 911 and they said, listen, she's fine, this is whatever it is. He's like, I'm glad I called still, because I knew I needed to take that extra step. And I was not equipped with the knowledge of how to diagnose what was going on with you. And obviously it turned out I needed emergency help, and I needed to go to the doctor in the hospital. And my father and Dan, my husband, when they were all driving in the car from the farm following the ambulance down the expressway, my father apparently said to my husband, thank you for taking control of the situation and calling 911. I never probably would have done this, and I probably would have blown it off because I panicked. And so I think that's another important thing that needs to be reiterated, is that often in these unfamiliar situations, especially with your health, and yes, the talking about COVID and whatnot, and I don't want to go to the doctor, or I've been advised to stay home, or this and that. I feel that we just need to put ourselves first, and it's okay if we don't understand what's going on, and take control of the situation. If there's pain going on with your heart inside, or you're feeling, like we've said several times in many different ways, something unfamiliar, don't self-diagnose yourself. The opportunity to go in and see medical professionals in this great country of ours, that's what you need to do. And if I had ignored this or just kind of sat it out for the day, I don't want to play the what if game, but I don't think the outcome would be me being here today. So I'm really glad that things went the way they did. And yeah, sometimes, as we've been saying, you get a pain and you're wondering, should I go to the doctor or not? A week after I got home, I couldn't sleep horizontally. And it turned out it was because, of the rib damage.
The broken ribs.
You can't stop using this. And now I've got that life vest on me, compressing it. And it felt like jabbing a knife every time I took a breath. And I was trying to figure that out for 2 weeks. So But my point was my husband was on high alert. Like, okay, does it feel just like it did when I hear? I'm like, no. This one's different. That was up here. This is over here. I'm pretty sure this one's all right. We don't need to go anywhere yet. But, you know, I am very aware now. And I try not to panic. And I try to keep a positive attitude because I know mentality is a big part of this. So, you know, I look at things like I got my little friend now and he's got the longest battery life out there. So hopefully I don't need to go in for another 15 years. And, you know, I can never drive a bus. I can't get a CDL license. When I go to the TSA now, no one. So other than that, I can pretty much do everything I used to do in life, you know? So giving up my dream as a bus driver will have to happen. But other than that, I mean, this is a good life. This is good. I'm okay. And being able to share this again and have someone go, you know what, I got that appointment. I'm not going to cancel it. I'm going to go. Or telling someone, you know, perhaps you should make an appointment. It's February. Why don't you just do it for a heart month at least? Is just, that's the stuff that now really makes my day.
Right. You know, and February is heart awareness. You know, we all know, go for your mammograms, encourage people to go for mammograms in October. So February is just heart awareness. You know, and we need to do those things. You know, one of the things that we also all need to really think about, if you haven't done them already, is having your medical power of attorney. You know, whatever it is, they're called different things in different states, but make sure that you've got that, because, you know, it's and have all those things in place. You know, we again, we put them off because we think, oh, that's not going to happen to us. You know, we're not going to need those things. You know, there's basic ones that you can get on the internet. You know, now, you know, obviously once you get a little, you know, if somebody like me, somebody like Tess, somebody like Dr. Block, ours are probably a little bit more complicated. You know, just because we've got, you know, different things in there. I don't go anywhere outside of my little realm without carrying my information that has all of my medical history in it. Because even though most places can now access the Epic system, which is kind of the overall medical database, sometimes it's easier for them to just look through this printed piece of paper real quick to go, oh my gosh, she's been tachycardic. She's had this, you know, she's had all of those various things. I mean, you know, clearly they're going to take one look and you know, at tests, you know, and would see the defibrillator, but you know, you need these things so that people can immediately see it, because you never know, unfortunately, where you might be when something might happen again. So, you know, just take
And
those
would the
steps.
normal person know the difference between a port like yours and
Right.
Tess's
Yeah. I mean, you know,
defibrillator?
it's just this bump in the shoulder. It's probably going to look very similar. Mine, you can actually see the line. It goes into my jugular. That is
Okay.
unusual for a port. Most ports don't do that, but mine is a long-term port. But yeah, I mean, you just, you know, you just see this, you know, it looks like my jugular stands out. So, but yeah, I mean, it's like a 3-inch incision and this little bump that's there. So,
Yeah.
so they do look
That
very
is one painful incision in and out.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's pretty easy peasy. You know, and I'm actually on my second port. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things, but yeah, carry your medical history with you if you've got something. You know, check into things. You know, we don't always check into our family's history. You know, they don't always tell us things. I mean, like when I started doing this, I discovered that there was more cancer in my family than I ever knew about because they didn't talk about those things. You know, and so check those things out. Now I have had genetic screening, you know, and so that was just kind of one of those things to do. But, you know, it's one of those things that we should be talking about with our family, with our loved ones, just so they know, you know, kind of what's going on. You know, I'm you know, Tess has had a lot of doctors in her life because of IVF and all of those. And so, you know, she's probably more comfortable talking to doctors and asking questions than a lot of us. But, you know, the big thing is ask questions. And, you know, you need an advocate. You know, Tess mentioned that there was a big period of time where she was pretty out of it. There was a big period of time where I was pretty out of it. Thank God for my husband. You know, he was able to ask those questions, to be that person in charge and do all of those things. So, you know, make sure that you've got somebody that can do that. And maybe they're just going to the doctor with you because, you know, we get there and we go, "Ah!" You know, they tell you you've got a bad cold and you don't remember what you're supposed to do when you get home with your medicine. They tell you you've got something major and your brain shuts off. So you'll take somebody else with you when you go to the doctor. So I know that Tess has got to go pick up Ferris at daycare. So does anybody have any final thoughts for Tess? And there's been some comments in the in the chat feature. Tess, I will do an introduction between you and Dr. Block. But yeah, you know, anybody else have any final thoughts or questions for Tess? Judy.
Well, way back when in Denver, when I had a publication and you were working with wise women, we had a luncheon, a huge luncheon, Go Red, and it was like a month-long celebration.
Mm-hmm.
We got to do amazing stories, and the persistence and the hope is so good. And thank you for sharing with us.
Oh,
Suze.
Let's go.
Suze has to run to another meeting. Brian had to go to another meeting. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for changing dates.
Thank you, Tess.
You know, and so this has been fabulous. You know, it's well, you know, when Tess's website is ready to start doing the fundraising, we'll make sure that everybody gets that information.
Thank
you know, and I know you posted it on Facebook. I'll actually do it outside of Facebook because then I believe I can do it as a matching gift
Awesome.
through my husband's company, and they don't do that through Facebook because they don't get the right notifications.
Thank
But yeah, so we'll make sure that that gets out there because you know it is something that you know that I think we all need to be more aware of. You know, one of the things we didn't talk about was, you know, is this something that women of color need to be more concerned about? You know, and you know, it's just one of those things that we can't have enough information about. You know, we need to just keep getting more and more information about this, and hopefully, you know, by informing ourselves, we're going to help save people's lives.
I think the most staggering newest research I've done, because I had, you know, before I close out, I had heard about, you know, I'm 1 in 10 sudden cardiac arrest survivors that had, because I had CPR and AEDs available to me in the hospital. Luckily, that was where this happened to me. And 1 in 3 women die of heart disease. And that's one too many. I think what the unique thing I recently read was, so we all know that heart disease is the #1 killer of women, and it is kills more women than all of the cancers combined. And yet only 38% of all research done is on women and heart disease.
Wow.
So how is this, in my opinion, acceptable? Whether it's me we're talking about or not. And when I read that recent number given to me from the American Heart Association, I was how? Only 38% is spent on women, yet this is what's killing us. And so I end with that. Thank you so much for having me today. I am going to go pick up my son from school. And I appreciate everyone's opportunity to listen and consider a donation with the American Heart Association. I will definitely share that link. And if that is not something that you are capable of doing or interested in doing, there will be opportunities for you to perhaps learn hands-only CPR. I'll provide a link to do that. Or if you're into social media, reposting things from American Heart Association. Because here's the deal. Yes, fundraising helps make a change in that 38% of research going to women. But even after all the contest is said and done, I'm still here and partnering with people and wanting to speak because our lives continue on and we need to continue to bring awareness. So, you know, all money aside, that is the main goal, is to try to help save a life and make you more aware. So thank you so much, Deb. I appreciated this so much.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. So thank you again so much, Tess.